Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
Nope. But we know how to face our fears
And have some fun.
and talk about all the messiest things of life.
Like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abi.
That's me.
That's you.
And you.
Hey, Connected Life fam, Justin here, and I'm really excited about today's episode. As always, it's going to be amazing. But before we get started, we want to share this story from Ryan, one of our Life Consulting Masterclass students. Recently, he had an experience that could have been totally disastrous. But because of the time that he spent inside of LCMC, he was able to apply foundational principles that we teach in order to navigate his way through it. For him specifically, he was able to tap in and connect to the little kid inside that was having a complete meltdown inside of the moment and be able to get himself to a place of peace to navigate major conflict. And that's something that we all go through. We all have those moments where we're really out of control and it's actually a little kid inside that's having a meltdown. And if we can get the comfort and the care internally from ourselves that we need, we can actually show up really powerful to every circumstance that we're inside of. And so we're going to listen to that impactful story, and then we'll jump into the episode. But before we jump into Ryan's story as well, if you've been interested in LCMC, you're wanting to get personal transformation, you're wanting to become a better leader, you might even want to be a life consultant, you can go to Justin and Abi, that's abi.com, and you can go ahead and check out on our masterclass courses page all the information that you need and even apply for the course. It's a year-long course. It starts in January, and we're really excited about this next year as we've got some amazing new fundamental principles that we're injecting into the school. So we're excited. And without further ado, here is Ryan's story. Enjoy.
So my wife and I volunteered at a horse camp for kids, youth, like junior high. There was a horse being tied up to a tree, and a boy was tying him. The horse started pulling back and his hand was stuck up in this tree. And so I wasn't that far away. He started yelling. There was a girl not far away also started, losing their mind. And then we had a wrangler that looks after our horses. He started yelling, but he couldn't see anything that was going on. So I started walking towards the horse, and I get my knife out of my pocket to cut the rope to be able to relieve the pressure from this boy's hand. And this wrangler he just keeps yelling, "Everyone get away, get away." And everyone has dispersed. There's no one there anymore. So this wrangler, he's yelling this the whole time. I'm walking up to this horse, go cut the knife. Well, the horse rears up, and it comes down on this boy. And it comes down on his back shoulder. His back shoulder and his head. So it pulls his hand out of the rope. He rolls away. And I'm still hearing this wrangler behind me yelling, "Get away, get away, get away." And so I'm going to the boy now to go and just assess whatever, And this wrangler is still yelling, and inside, little Ryan is like, "Shut up. Like, you don't even know what's going on. There's no one here. The kids are already, they're stirred up. There's one little girl, she was yelling like the whole time. No one's there." No, sorry, his hand is stuck. And so this wrangler keeps yelling, "Get away." And whatever inside of me, that trigger, whatever, I turned around, I was like, his hand's stuck. And he kept yelling it. So then I started walking towards him. I was like, his hand was fucking stuck. Like, what do you not get about his hand is stuck? He stared at me and he's like, "What did you just say to me?" And I was like, "Hey, if I continue with this conversation, it will not go well." So I went for a walk way into the bush, did a bunch of breath work, talked to little Ryan. 10, 15 minutes, I was able to come out of there and I was good. In the past, that would have wrecked the camp for me. I would have hated that wrangler's guts. I would have been pissed at myself, like the whole whatever, right? At this point, my wife was with this boy, got him all kind of assessed and whatever. And I go up to him. His name is Tristan. I was like, "Dude, how you doing?" Like soft tones and whatever. And he's doing the kind of the hyperventilating cry. So in my head, I'm like, some breath work would work well. And I was like, "Would you mind doing something with me? Something that would, I think will help kind of how you're feeling." He's like, "Sure. Okay." And this is a cowboy boy. Like, he goes to the mountains with his dad and he goes hunting and shit like that. This is out of his wheelhouse. So I started breathe in for 3, hold for 3, exhale through your mouth for 3. And we did that 3 times. His kind of like, his crazy crying slowed down. And I was like, "How's that feel?" And he's like, "Better." I was like, "Awesome." I don't know why this makes me so emotional right now. Maybe it's because of something I wish would have happened to me growing up. I was like, dude, I'm so sorry that I wasn't there for you when you needed me. My goal was to help and to be with you, to be present with you, and just be there. And he started crying again, but a lot more kind of like normal crying. And so I cried with him. And so there's the director of the camp. She heard me yelling. She heard the whole fuss. She's sitting there. She's watching this whole thing go down with me and this boy. After it's all said and done or whatever, she kind of pulls me aside and she's like, how did you calm down so fast? And so I was like, I was reassuring little Ryan. I was doing breath work. She's like, you serious? Like, it takes me hours sometimes to calm down from that stuff. And I'm like, I'll tell you about it later. I've done a course that is fucking life-changing. And so anyway, I was like, where's Jake, the wrangler? She's like, oh, he's up on the hill with the horses. And I was like, okay, I'll go talk to him. So I told him kind of like, when you said, what did you just say to me? That was like, you cared more about a word than you cared about a little boy who just got clobbered by a horse. And that set off all sorts of stuff inside. And so I need to take a walk. And he's like, well, first of all, well done. And then he just totally went off on his own rants and his own whatever and never came back to, my heart. But in that moment, I was quite okay because I talked to little Ryan. I dealt with little Ryan. I reaffirmed little Ryan. He could have said whatever he wanted and it was okay because little Ryan knew that he was safe, that he was looked after and that I wouldn't abandon him again. I just wanted to say, so the pipeline company that I work for, I've given 2 mental health talks, one in front of a boss that's 5 levels like above me.
Wow.
And another one like within our area, I guess. And I can't believe the amount of calls and people, like even before I did that are coming and asking questions. And like, this is like redneck world. I feel like those guys, mostly guys, are like absolutely craving this and they have no idea this even exists. And so when I start this, this presentation, I'm like, this is going to sound like some hippy dippy shit and all eyes are on me because like when I first did these courses, I was like, what the is this? It's like I'm breathing. Like there's just so much like, and I was so triggered by all of it. Like, this is so dumb. And now it's like, this is like the lifeblood that continues where I show up to work with a smile on my face. I want to be with people. I want to do, there's everything about it. So no, like if I was to do life consulting, I could quit my job and just the people I work with alone would be my people. Thank you guys for all the clarity and the insights and the homework that I struggle to do. And most of the time don't do it. But when I do it, I realize it resonates. Like I don't know. You guys are like life changers. And I can't thank you enough for what you've done for me in my life.
Oh man, that was so good. Now let's jump into that conversation with our good friend Ruth. And I've had the time of my life, and I only want to. We have be with you.
Wait, who are you singing that to? And that now sounds creepy. Is this a musical episode?
No, this is a money episode. You know darn well it is that, Ruth. Hey,
and you know darn well.
Speaking of money, I've been bamboozled before out of money. You ever been bamboozled out of money?
Yeah.
I used to have so many money issues. I was very terrified of money stuff. And early on in college, it was my first year in LA, and they saw a simpleton walking down the street. They sure did.
Yeah, because you're from Montana. You didn't know. You didn't know LA world.
And they were like, "You're so handsome. Have you acted or modeled before?" And I was like, "I don't know. Have I just struck gold?" And they're like, "You should come to this thing." And I was like, "Okay, I'll go to that thing."
100%. And this is how fame happens.
Yeah, I was like,
and this is how people get trafficked.
I got discovered. Back then we weren't being trafficked. Now we are. They were like, okay. So I went to this thing and they were like, yeah, it's $800 for headshots and stuff. And then we're going to get you up on our online portal. And then they will be able to find you as an actor and stuff. Just fill this stuff out. I was like, oh, it's beginning. Here comes fame. Nope, got bamboozled. And I had such...
What happened?
Did you pay that
they take the
$800?
pictures?
Yeah, they took the pictures. Your name
Were
was
they
on...
good pictures?
They were just headshot. And then they were on their website and then nothing. There's just like, They took my money.
They literally just have a website.
Well,
nobody looks at their website.
Some people maybe did. I don't know. I don't know what happened. All I know is that $800 sent me into the biggest shame spiral. And I was like, I have no money and I spent $800 thinking I'm beautiful and talented and I'm not. Like, it wasn't enough.
That's a lot of money back then.
I felt
that was,
well, it's still a lot of money.
Yeah, but that was 20 years ago.
Yeah, and I was 20 years old. And
that's a lot of money to a 20-year-old.
Yeah, and then I just walked away being like, I'm a dum-dum.
Oh.
I don't need that. Oh, where's the guy voice that goes, haha, yeah, you were.
You jackass.
Exactly.
No, Justin, was it that you got bamboozled out of $800, or did you just not make it as an actor?
Well,
that's what I was going to say.
No.
Did they just not like your headshot?
Stop it. I was bamboozled. This was a money issue. Okay.
You said you wanted more of a guy response.
That was really good. Yeah. So, but I had a very strong reaction about money when in my younger days. I was very terrified of money.
Yeah.
And money is something that is terrifying for a lot of people because
I think it's tormenting. I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
Oh, I mean, we don't know how it works. We don't know how to get it. If we don't have enough of it, we're destitute on the street, apparently. Like, it's just like
living out of a box.
Yeah, living out of a box down by the river.
Here's what I'm going to say. All of us have a relationship with money. We all have emotions around that relationship. Some of our relationships are like an abusive relationship where we beg it for attention and then feel,
come be my friend, please.
Yeah. And we'll do whatever we can, but then we feel still like punished and locked out and shut down. And most of us have a relationship with money and we're not actively thinking about our beliefs around money.
Yeah.
Or how to create a healthy relationship with money. We often are just thinking, if I made this much money, I would be okay. Or if I did this, then all of this would resolve. Like, it's almost like a marriage where they're fighting all the time and they're like, yeah, but if we just buy a house, all of our problems will go away.
Yeah.
Or like we're fighting
all
the time.
Then you got house problems.
Yeah. If we just have a kid, all of our problems will go away.
Then you got kid problems.
Yeah. So it's
just got problems.
Yeah. And we're going to do some podcasts on money because it is one of every single human has a relationship with money. You can't avoid it.
Unless you took off into the wilderness and lived off the land.
And you had a relationship with berries.
Then you deal in berries and animal hides.
Yeah.
Which is another form of money.
Exactly.
I need more berries and animal hides and I ain't got enough.
Wasn't there a movie about that? The guy went and he ate the wrong berries and he died.
Oh.
Was dark.
Somehow you took this dark again. Both episodes with you have started
dark last time. Taxidermist over here.
Okay, but so we all have a relationship with money, and most of us have not felt equipped to look at that relationship and actually solve and heal and resolve things inside of that relationship so that we can be in alignment and agreement with money so that we can have a healthy relationship moving forward. Most of us are looking for an external circumstance. I'm going to win the lotto and then I'll feel safe with money. I'm going to get this job and then I'll feel safe with money. I'm going to make this much money and then I'll feel safe. We all have it. I remember something that stood out to me. I was reading an article where Will Smith was talking about how he still stayed awake at night worrying about money and losing everything.
Oh, when he had everything. Yeah.
And I remember thinking, that's crazy because if only I had Will Smith's life, I wouldn't do that. But it's just not true. Every goal that I've set financially never healed my emotional internal safety system around finances. You actually have to go on the journey of learning and understanding your dynamic, your beliefs, healing those beliefs, and becoming powerful in the areas that you haven't been being powerful in.
This is an area where I've had a lot of conversations with people, especially in my office and stuff. I know this one person that I've had in my life where they literally, their whole life has been this fear of money. And they're, in that retirement age. And they have fear about retirement and money. But when they look back at the history of their entire life, everything has been well provided for the entire time. And it wasn't their fear that gave them that provision. It was like, it was there. They were being taken care of along the way. And they have never done the work to look internally.
To resolve.
So now they're still feeling unsettled. Like, oh, if I don't, and this is one of the key things. Most people believe that if I have enough fear, that's what's going to take care of me in my process, which in fact, it's been one of the most limiting factors in universally in people's lives that keep them from not only having an enjoyable life, but actually being able to do and generate the things that they want. Because when we are trapped inside of fear, our logic and our reason goes out the window, and our connection to our authentic self that is saying, like, this person that I'm even speaking of right now, they're in so much fear that they never connect to their own emotions. And if they actually connected to their own emotions about stuff, there's tons of creative dreams that they could have that can make them all kinds of wealth, but they're all shut down.
Yeah, well, fear blocks the ability to think outside the box.
Absolutely.
Fear blocks creativity.
Yeah.
Fear shuts down our ability to see what options we do have. I was thinking about how oftentimes we get in self-fulfilling prophecies cycles with money.
Yeah.
So like the very thing we don't want to have happen, we end up leading our lives to subconsciously, because what we believe we will achieve, and what we focus on, we will grow towards. And so money is a big, important thing to look at. And we've spent years working on our money beliefs, and I don't feel like I've arrived. I feel like I've seen fruit from the work we've done. I agree. Like, we've done a lot of work, and I have grown a lot, and my peace has grown a lot, and my safety has grown a lot. And there's still big triggers that can pop up, and I have to go back to do the work on. But I've seen our money map expand and grow, and our belief system expand and grow through that process.
Yeah.
So Ruth is here.
Yeah.
Hey guys.
Hi, Ruth.
Hey.
What's up?
We're going to talk about your very dysfunctional relationship with money.
My broke ass.
Well, I brought her on because this is a journey that she's had to really go on. And I've watched her throughout the years with all of her avoidance about her emotional issues, all the ways that she told me that I believed poppycock about changing your beliefs.
Poppycock? Did I actually say that word?
No, that's basically bullshit. Yeah.
It's very British.
A British way.
Yeah.
Poppycock.
Do you guys say poppycock? No.
Maybe Mary Poppins does.
I don't know who says it. But anyway, watching you not believe me, stay in torment for a long time. And then you did actually come to your own place of learning how to reconcile with finances. So I thought we could all kind of share our journey and stories together and talk through the pathway.
Yeah. Moral of the story: believe what Abby tells you.
Listen to her, and everything will be okay.
That's what I heard when you.
I'm not going to say you're wrong.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Who wants to start this off?
Ruth. I thought Ruthie could.
Okay.
Tell
us about your terrible money belief.
My terrible money beliefs. Well, maybe it's helpful to start with
background
how
story.
I grew up.
Yeah.
My family's relationship with money.
Because basically our families teach us who money is. Money is kind of like an aunt or an uncle. And the way that our families relate to money is the way that we learn to relate to money. Yeah.
And there's something about, like you were talking about earlier, like we have visceral, like emotional memory around things, don't we?
Yeah.
So we all have like emotional memory around money. And that's oftentimes what we're replicating and what we're responding to. Yeah. Like we tend to recreate what's familiar to us. So if I have an emotional memory of lack, I'm going to find myself recreating those experiences. So my background, it's kind of interesting. So I grew up, my dad is from like, kind of a very middle class, like never really had to worry about money in his life. Like his parents were quite wealthy.
Oh, that's nice.
Gave him like, anything he could ever need. He's never really had any fear or concern about it.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
And he lives his life that way.
Oh, how wonderful.
So he's never had any anxiety about retirement. He's never had any anxiety about being able to afford a house. I say this to say my parents are divorced, and it's quite interesting to see
how each of them walks
it out differently. Yeah. Because if you think about my early childhood when my parents were together, it felt quite stable. It felt quite secure.
Everything was going to be okay.
Everything's going to be provided for. Even though we had this kind of slightly chaotic life where we lived as missionaries in Africa for a while and then came back to the UK, it still felt very like, oh, there's always going to be enough. Like, it's fine. And my mum grew up, my mum's Scottish and her parents moved down from Glasgow and they were very working class. There was a real sense of like, is there going to be enough? I don't know. It's kind of a little bit more like paycheck to paycheck. And since my parents got divorced, my mum has kind of gone down the line of, I don't know if there's going to be enough. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to support myself. And so my experience with money since my parents got divorced has been much more colored by my mum's experience, who was the parent that we lived with the majority of the time. And so I would say, I would characterize it as just a pervasive sense of lack.
Impending
doom.
Yeah.
She would have a lot of conversations with me as a single parent. I was the oldest of 4, where she'd be like, I don't know if we're going to have money to keep the electricity on. I don't know if we're going to have money to be able to put food on the table next week.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if we're going to be able to keep the house.
A lot of verbal process.
A lot of verbal processing. Yeah.
And so you then were absorbing all of her fears.
Yes, all of her anxiety, all of her stress. Yeah, it was that we never actually weren't able to put food on the table or did have to shut off the electricity. But it was that constant verbal process of like, we're going to have to do this, or I'm going to have to send you to live with your dad because I'm not going to be able to afford to keep the 4 of you together. So it was this constant level of doom is coming, doom is coming, doom is coming, doom is coming. We're in lack already. And that feeling of there isn't somebody bigger than me. There isn't somebody who, she doesn't feel safe with money. And if she doesn't feel safe with money, then I probably am not safe with money. And I remember kind of going around the house as a kid and getting my siblings to like turn light switches off and like, oh my gosh, we need to like conserve energy. Like with this, we're on the edge. We're
there may not be, we're not going to be okay. Wow.
We're not going to be okay. As soon as I was like 13 years old, I went out and got like a paper round because that was the only way, like the only place you could earn money. And did this paper round for years and years and years and like saved up like the £3 a week that I made and like,
oh my gosh.
Not that I even necessarily did anything with that money, but like the feeling of like,
I need to have this in case
I need to be earning money in case everything falls apart. I remember having this constant fear that like my mum was just going to quit life. She struggled really badly with depression when we were growing up. She was just going to quit life and I was going to have to quit school and get a full-time job and take care of my siblings. And I was going to have to like sort of step in and be the powerful one around money, but feeling very unpowerful around money because I'm a kid. I don't know what I'm doing. All I can do is my paper round.
Yeah.
Totally.
Bring home £3 a week.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you told me that you had like, you'd celebrate milestones every time you're like, I made it all the way through middle school.
Yes.
I didn't have to drop out of school yet.
Yeah. I was like, oh man, I took these exams. Phew. Okay. I'm not going to have to get just, a job like
before this
as a waitress. Like I'm going to be able to go a step further than that. And then
that feels so tormenting.
Oh my gosh, I made it to university. Okay. Like no one could take that away from me.
Right.
This is mine now.
Wow.
So there was always this impending, I guess you could characterize it for me, that I had this idea that I had to quit myself. I had to survive, which is why education became so important to me.
Yeah.
This is my road out of here. Like this is my avenue. This is my ticket. But this impending sense that there's this big looming catastrophe.
Oh, absolute doom. Impending doom.
Impending doom. Impending inadequacy in other people. I'd say one of the biggest triggers I have around dating is guys who don't feel powerful with money.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're going to sink me.
Oh.
I'm going to have to take care of everyone and everything. And
I'm going to go,
basically
tormenting. You're saying I'm going to go back to being who I was, how I felt as
a little kid.
Yeah, that little kid. Like I literally remember realizing like, okay, I can study. And study to me meant money.
Right.
So I'm going to
study enough, money will be.
Then I could get a good job and I could get myself out of this. And I remember going into the library and checking out this biology book that was like 3 years too old for me and learning the entire textbook.
What?
Wow. And got this grade on this test that didn't even exist. But it was coming out of this like fear control space of like,
I have to get good grades.
Yes.
I have to be smart so that I can make money so that I can be safe.
So I can feel safe again because I feel so unsafe, so out of control. There's so much impending doom. There's so much incapableness feeling in the house.
Such a deep sense of abandonment.
Oh, yeah.
That's inside of that.
Yeah.
I am all alone inside of this world to make it happen. There's nobody bigger than me. The people that are bigger than me are saying this ship's going to sink. And it's interesting because it's like, I don't ever want to have to feel that feeling again, which is something that I've heard from so many people, especially people who are super wealthy and that didn't come born out of money and they came from nothing. They're like, I just never want to have to feel that feeling ever again. And it's that deep thing of like, okay, this is going to resolve that. Even though that feeling's chasing you down daily, making sure that you don't have to feel it, but you're kind of feeling it because it's hiding in the background. It's not resolved inside of you.
Yeah.
But yeah,
well, I think
that's so relatable to so many people.
Yeah. It's really, money represents safety to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like emotional stability, security, safety. I think that's one of the core human needs is to feel secure and safe. But it's one that a lot of us haven't ever found a way to do.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't trained ourselves to feel safe. Instead, we do things like, I'm going to go to school forever so that I can be safe.
Yeah. And there's like, money means so many different things to different people, doesn't it? So a good chunk of what money means to me is safety.
Yeah.
But part of what it also means is value. So if you look at my relationship with my dad, who was someone who was always pretty competent with money, pretty safe, pretty capable, and he decided to quit paying child support at a certain point, or like my mum had to really fight him to get him to help provide and support us because he was setting up his new life with his new
kids,
family that he started. So a lot of his like energy was going into that. So there's a value piece there as well of like, I'm not worth being
literally
provided
being
for.
rejected by money.
Yeah. I'm not valuable enough for money to be spent on me, or I'm not valuable enough for money to be like it like equates to value, right?
Yeah.
Well, and that would make it so hard to trust God.
Yeah.
In the area of finances.
Oh, yeah. Because here's my dad who is capable and could, but chooses not to. So how is God going to be any different than that? But yeah, I do believe that God is capable. I do believe that miracles happen. I do believe that he can provide. I watch him do it for everyone else. But why would he wouldn't do it for me.
Right.
Yeah. Which I think is something a lot of people have the same emotion with, especially, you know, if you have any sense of connection to God, there's that struggle internally. Are you really good? Are you really involved? I believe you'll be involved over there, but not here because of the history with my own family, childhood experiences that I had.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I remember on the journey, you graduated college, came to America, went to a school that did not help further your degree.
Nope.
and it felt like a little bit like chaos to you to do that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Do you want to talk about what it felt like?
Well, and also I should clarify, I couldn't work in the States initially when I came over here.
Because of the student visa.
Yeah. My primary way to feel safe around money is working. Like I'm going to go out and get that paper round. I'm going to go out, like whatever I can do. Oh, all of a sudden, all of my capacity to feel control and self-sufficiency has been taken away from me. I'm here doing this crazy school, which doesn't further my career. I can't earn any money. I felt so internally chaotic and unsafe. Like I would say I was logically connected to the idea that God could show up and be a provider. And that logic and that faith, I guess, felt strong enough for me to take the plunge
and at least do it
and try it and come and do it. But internally, like my emotional space, like viscerally how it felt to me, my body memory, my emotional memory, I'm just like, I'm out of control. I'm in chaos. Impending doom is coming. I remember having all these thoughts constantly, like, what if I get sick? I can't afford to get sick here. So I just won't do certain things that I enjoy. Like, I won't go hiking. I won't go.
Because what if something happens?
Because what if I get bitten by a snake? Wow. What if I get heat stroke? What if I fall off a rock? So like, I won't drive. I remember, do you remember this, Abs? A friend had like given me a car for a few months and they were like, hey, you can use the car. Like, I'm going to be out of the country, so you can use, I didn't touch the car.
No, she just walked everywhere.
I just walked everywhere. I didn't touch the car.
I didn't know this.
Yeah. Because I had so much fear of impending doom.
Like, what if I drive the car and get in a wreck? And I remember being like, you understand how insurance works, right? Like, like there's insurance on the car. So even if you did get into a wreck, it wouldn't disable you financially the rest of your life.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm going to go bankrupt. This is going to bankrupt me. This is going to destroy my life. My life is over. Which, again, if you think about it, is the feelings of the little girl growing up in that house. Like,
which I'd like to just point out. So most of us have an experience as a kid, and those feelings just repeat over and over again. Those feelings, whatever season of life we're in, those feelings find a way to repeat. And we think those feelings are about that season. Right. So your brain logically tells you the feelings you have of impending doom are because you're in another country, because you don't know how the healthcare system works here, because you don't understand so your brain tells you it isn't safe to drive here. Right. Because it's in the trap of, like, you were in an emotional flashback. And I wish people understood the concepts of emotional flashbacks more, but it's like a record, almost like a song. Emotions are like a song. So maybe we hear the song when we're a kid, and then the song keeps playing throughout our lives over and over and over again. And our brains make up that the song is now narrating what we're looking at, instead of recognizing that the song is just playing on repeat. It's not showing us what's happening in our current life. It's showing us what we heard and what impacted us as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good way to say it.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do this for a job.
You too?
Okay. So do you have anything to add as you're thinking about from your story as we're going, Justin?
Well, I can relate to some of the paralyzing fear in different aspects. I mean, when I lived in Los Angeles, besides the $800 that I blew and got
on your modeling career,
bamboozled out of, as I said, there was so many experiences that I didn't participate in because I was like, oh, it's going to run out and I'm going to be destitute on the street. And I don't know, like, I had huge emotions about health. Like there was a couple times where I thought I was dying. And I was like, I will power through this in prayer.
In prayer.
Because I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm not going to get taken care of if I go into a hospital. So I would just like lay in my bed aching and stuff like that. Just going like, I don't know how else to survive. And I felt so small when it came to life because of the financial aspect of where I was at. And so I know that there was from college into some of my early days in some of the different jobs that I had, I limited myself on life experiences all because I didn't believe things were going to be okay. And eventually the impending doom, like that impending doom monster was a very intimate friend of mine because I was always hearing as a kid, this could happen to you and this could happen to you. And I was being told the millions of terrible, crappy things that could suddenly hit me and cause disaster to my life. So in hypervigilance, I'm playing out every worst case scenario until there's paralyzation, generally speaking. Not completely, but I'm just generalizing. It was like, okay, I'm going to live this very small life. And I hear you saying that. I'm like, I totally get how you got there and how terrible that feels. And I had such a feeling as I got out of it of like, man, I wish I could have had the conversation with young Justin. Justin, your future is going to be fine. Go live your damn life, okay? Because it's not like you're missing out on goodness right here and now.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was thinking about how, thanks for sharing that. I really enjoyed hearing it. I realized I was about to jump into
Oh, that's great. I didn't need validation. Go.
I know you didn't. But I was enjoying what you're saying, and it made me think a couple things. I was thinking about how our beliefs as kids are really molded around incomplete stories.
Yeah.
And so our beliefs form how we move the rest of our lives, even though it might be formed on logic that isn't sound.
Right.
Like, for instance, if your mom lost the house, I imagine your dad would have intervened somehow. Maybe. She's like, it's hard to believe. I mean, I imagine it's a possibility that you guys wouldn't have ended up homeless.
No.
Like, there would have been something that was safe and stable.
Yes.
Even if that was not a safe and stable thing. But there'd be no way to feel that in the middle of it. I'm thinking about my childhood where the story was, so when I was growing up, my mom worked and my dad worked, and then my dad decided to go back to school, but it was fine because my mom was working, so he could afford to go back to school. And then my mom got sick, and then she had to stop working, and then we had to go bankrupt. That's kind of the series of events, and that's how I clumped them together, which is that, like, you could get sick and it could destroy your whole life.
Right.
It could destroy all of your finances. It could destroy everything. Now, when I look back, I can see that it was not just that my mom got sick and my dad went to school. Also, honestly, that deeply impacted me. I was like, my dad went to school. That ruined us financially.
Yeah.
Even though it provided a stable job later, it felt like it ruined us in the process financially. So I was adamantly against college. Me and you had very opposite things where I was like, I'm not going. That's a waste of money.
Totally.
It will
That
ruin
makes
your
sense
life.
where that came from. I didn't know where that came from, but I mean, like, that makes sense.
Yeah. I was like adamantly like, no, I will only go to college if I know. Now, my dad had gone to college like 2 or 3 times and he'd gotten 2 or 3 degrees, which I think ultimately has made him great at what he does. And like, now I can look and see with my adult logic that college didn't ruin his life and that that's not the one thing that broke us financially. Now I can look back and be like, well, obviously it hurts when the person who's working stops, but also my parents never were on the same team financially.
Right.
My mom, I think, spent like the mentally ill person she was. She just spent money all the time on everything. It didn't matter what it was. She spent so much. I mean, my mom blew through $100,000 in 1 year. And we don't know what she bought still.
Yeah, there was nothing there.
There was like supplements and some blankets and some pajamas. Like, it was like such a weird, like, it was crazy.
Yeah, it's not like she had a Porsche to show for it or something.
No, there was no real. And so my mom just spent and spent and spent and spent. And then my dad felt out of control. And so they both were like spending in weird ways and they weren't on the same team. And so now I can see there was a lot of dynamics that led to us being in financial ruin. But that's not what I clocked as a kid. What I clocked as a what I clocked as a kid was college and health.
Yeah.
So then when we got married, I was having health issues and I was terrified of going to the doctor.
Yeah.
Theme for all of us, apparently. That is the one thing about the American health system that's hard. But I didn't go to the doctor and it destroyed my body for like the next 15 years because I ended up getting on there was a doctor who just kept prescribing me antibiotics over and over and over again, but I didn't need them. And then that destroyed my gut. And then that destroyed, like, it just became a thing. But it was out of my panic about money that I refused to see a doctor. And then because of that, I got myself into a situation where I have now been paying doctors so much more money than I would have paid that 1 year if I would have just done it. But so it's the idea that our beliefs as kids aren't even necessarily accurate, right?
Yeah.
To what is true about the world. It's what feels true about the world.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah, like I would say some of the beliefs that I came away with was like, oh, we're unsafe financially because my mum isn't powerful. because my mom quits at life.
Yeah.
Because my mom, when she feels overwhelmed, goes into collapse.
Yeah.
That's the assumption that I made, right? It's because she quits. So therefore, I will never quit.
Totally.
Therefore, I will work.
I will never collapse.
I will never collapse. I will keep going. I will keep going. I will keep going. I'll keep going. That was the assumption that I made.
Yeah.
Actually, the reality of it is me and my mom have the same coping mechanism around finances. We avoid.
Yeah.
She avoids in her collapse and I avoid in focusing on driving myself, but not actually paying attention to finances.
Totally.
Yes.
I'm just like work. I'll be safe. But I'm still avoiding looking at my bank account. I'm still avoiding having an actual relationship with money.
Which again,
so the very thing that you judged about her,
yes,
you're still doing.
You
just
actually did
avenue.
the exact same.
It's
Don't
a
we-
cruel joke.
Don't we all do that though?
I
Like,
know, it's very true.
we hold judgments towards other people, and then we're like living it out just in an entire. It might look entirely different externally, but the heart set and everything else, it's all the same.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I judged my mom forever. She was so generous, but it was like dysfunctionally generous, where we had no money. We were tens of thousands in debt. And I would find out like, oh, I wrote this person a $500 check monthly because they're missionaries. And I'd be like, where are we getting that money from, Mom? I need new shoes, you know? Like, but then I find myself like, do you know how I got into debt? I overly gave.
Stop.
Yes. And I've actually had to go on the journey.
Until I interrupted her cycle.
I had to go on the journey of learning how to say no to giving, even though that was the exact same thing my mom did. And I judged her for it. It's just, we watch it and we feel it. Our bodies experience something and we subconsciously interact on the same way.
Yeah.
I've told this before, but there was a season where part of me breaking my pain with money was getting on online and looking at my bank account daily. Because I didn't want to look at that thing. I could go for a couple months and just be like, I hope it's okay in there. Maybe occasionally I'd pop in really quick and be like, what's happening? Is there money in the check? Okay, goodbye.
Hold your breath.
Like,
fine.
close your eyes and then turn away as fast as possible.
Feels very familiar.
Are you trying to call me out right now?
But I finally said to myself, you will get well acquainted with this relationship by sitting down every day. And it wasn't just open it up, look at what's there and what's not there and jump out. It was, I'm going to sit and I'm going to be present with what's happening. What is happening? I'm freaking out right now. Why? I don't think then I started going down the pathways. What's in the pathways in my head? Oh, I think that an impending disaster like a tire going out on our truck is going to cost us this much, and then we won't have enough to make it by the end of the month. I feel really abandoned and alone. I feel like this is all on my shoulders. Okay, I'm going to acknowledge that. I didn't even have to fix it. Like I wasn't even focused on what's this solution right now. The first step was just acknowledging what the narrative was internally inside of me.
Totally.
And then it was like getting comfortable in my body because I was always escaping it. But what I was demanding was get into your body, be in front of this computer right now.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this concept of flashbacks and how much our flashbacks lie to us and they tell us right now, this is what you're in. And what you were demanding was to come out of flashbacks, which was saying this is too big, it's too bad, and you were like coming into a present sense inside your body of facing it right then. But I was thinking about a friend of mine right now, and he's selling a house and buying another house. And he bought the other house and is now trying to sell his old house. Yeah. But the old house hasn't sold yet. And so there's a lot of panic happening. And I can feel the panic. And when he grew up, he lost his parents in a dramatic way. He was orphaned. And he lost everything instantly. And so I can see that right now they've committed to this house and they didn't do it's not a bridge loan. It's not like if our house sells, we buy this house. It's like we buy this house regardless. Yeah. And we hope this house sells or that somebody rents it, either one. But I can feel the panic. And the panic is because his body is right back to when he was a kid and lost everything.
Totally.
His body is remembering what it feels like to feel like money's not safe, what it feels like to feel like everything's going to fall apart. So the emotions are that big. And what happens is when our bodies have flashbacks, it's not that his mind is going back. He's not consciously remembering all the details. It's just that the body experience is flashing back. Then our minds think that it's about what is happening now. So his mind thinks that it's as soon as this house sells, I'll be okay. The panic is because of this. And so I often do logic to try to help people get outside of the flashback. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, let's actually logically look. What is the worst case scenario here? Mm-hmm. So when both their parents died, they lost their house, they lost all of their money, they lost all of their family, all of their stability. They were really wealthy before. And they lost everything at once. So you've got to think, I mean, it's just all of your traumas intermixed there. Yeah. You've lost all of your money, but you've also lost all of your parents. You've also lost, it's so traumatic.
And the story inside of something like that is you can be absolutely stable.
And then have it ripped out.
Ripped out from under you, which is really like the impending doom monster is massive on that one. Oh, yes. It's one thing if you didn't have it in the first place, but when you sure had enough, more than enough, and then it just disappears.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So he's in that impending doom of everything could get ripped out from me. My whole world could collapse. So I'm like, well, let's actually talk through what could collapse. Like, let's just say your other house doesn't sell or rent. You can, there's multiple things. You can lower the price of your house. You can make less money. You can sell both homes. Like, the worst case scenario is you sell both homes and you move into an apartment. Like, that's the worst case scenario. You're still covered and
taken care of.
Now, their body is telling them, I could lose all security. I could lose all safety. I could lose all relationships. I could use, it's level 100 severity. Now, it wouldn't be fun to sell both houses. Like, I'm not saying that'd be fun,
not
but
ideal.
You would be fine. The rest of your life isn't going to fall apart. Your friends aren't going to abandon you.
Right.
Like, you won't be stuck for the rest of your life. You have great jobs. You're going to make it through it. You'll resave money. And so it ends up just being like, they're all going to be fine.
Yeah.
But our flashbacks create a concept where it's really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a great illustration because so many of these things are based on these emotions and these feelings that as kids we found intolerable. Right?
Yes.
So I find the unsafety, the out of controlness of you not feeling bigger than me, Mum, and me having to try and be big and I can't be big because I'm a kid, intolerable. That feeling makes me feel like I want to crawl out of my own skin.
Yeah.
It like I have no way to process that feeling. I have no way to reconcile it, move through it. There's no way you can articulate that as a kid.
No.
So we just build up these body memories around emotion that we find intolerable.
Yes.
And then our brain is trying to come up, like our brain is amazing at connecting dots and putting patterns together and solving problems and solutions. So as a kid, our brain is going, well, you're feeling this feeling because your mom's not capable.
Yes.
So you need to be capable.
Yeah.
Or your friend, you're feeling this feeling right now because your house isn't going to sell. When actually like so we're always looking to pay attention to that thing that the story is telling us, right? We're like, okay, then I got to control how much I work, or I got to control how I buy or sell a house, or I got to control what I do with my health and how I manage finances around that and yada, yada, yada. When actually the thing that's really driving it is that feeling that we find intolerable. And guess what? That feeling follows us
absolutely
into all of the different, whether I'm here in the States and I can't work, or whether I go back to the UK and I can work, or whether I'm, whatever I'm doing, that feeling of I feel out of control and I feel like I'm having to be the biggest person in my world and I can't be the biggest person in my world is going to follow me.
Yeah.
One of the aspects, like talking about that and breaking that feeling for me was a couple things. One was the aspect of like getting connected to a creator that was intimately involved inside of my story. So it was the conversations internally where I had to begin to say like, hey, Justin, I know that you believed, based on some of your experiences in your childhood, that no one's going to come take care of you inside of it. You're not going to get nurtured. You're not going to get comforted, but that isn't the story to life. That's an experience that you had with individuals, but that's not a generalized experience that this life has to offer. And I had to begin to, in some aspects, have the logical internal conversation of, there's actually a really good creator, Papa, that is involved inside of your story that's been leading you. And here's the history. So I had to actually pull on the history of all the ways that I was taken care of and remind myself, like, here's where God showed up in this, this, and this, and that. And it wasn't by your own making, your own causes. You didn't design these opportunities to come along. These things came into your path through your intimate relationship with a creator that loves you.
But also, I'd say you were outside of a trigger enough to even recognize. Because when we're triggered, we look back on our history and we're like, God didn't come through there or there or there. And we only focus on the threat and the things that didn't happen. When we are out of a triggered mindset, we can see the different pieces that actually worked for us.
Right.
Oh, that I met that person. Oh, they offered me a job. Oh, this thing happened. Oh, this person lent me their house. Oh, and our ability, it's important to actually build the muscle to see the things in our history that did work out for us.
And that's where there was proactive reflection outside of the moments of trauma triggers happening. So I was proactively in those times of peace sitting down and being like, I really want to repair this thing inside of me that feels so abandoned when it comes to money and future situations. I want to deal with that. So I wasn't just trying to talk myself off a ledge before I jumped.
Right.
You know, it was like, I'm not even close to the ledge. I'm not even on the top of the building anymore. I'm like on the third floor, just chilling out. And I'm like, I need to address this. So that was a proactivity of that inner dialogue. I think another major portion was asking the question, what is the message that was sent from my childhood through each of my, like Ruth, you highlighted, your parents had two different belief systems. And I was like, how was I interpreting the way that my parents were responding? Just the practical, logical understanding helped me understand that. And I could have logical conversations. This wasn't even heart stuff. I mean, it was a simple, like, yeah, the truth is the feeling you're having right now, Justin, is very similar to the one that the ones Dad would have in these moments. And I'd be like, oh yeah, this is more about what Dad was having experienced than what's actually going on right now in this situation.
Yeah, totally.
And I think the other thing.
Well, can I add to that?
Yeah,
can
go
you
ahead.
remember your last point?
Yeah.
Something that I did is I wrote out all of my beliefs that I could think of about money.
Yeah, I did that too.
And then wrote out just what are the opposite truths besides that. So like, I remember one of them, my family got very upset when I didn't go to college.
Oh yeah.
This is the
People
irony.
were
Did they really?
scathing over that one.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it ruined my relationship with most of my family on my mom's side because my mom's mom was a single mom. And the only way she was able to provide for her kids was because of her education.
Yeah.
Is their belief. Now, she was a piano teacher, so she actually probably could have she taught in school, but she also made a good amount of money in piano. Who knows? We could go back and we could debate.
But the
narrative in our family was that college is what saved their financial stability. And so they all have this deeply ingrained mindset that if I don't go to college, I will not be safe.
Right.
And I have this mindset, if I go to college, I will not be safe. So we are both colliding and we are deathly protecting ourselves.
Yeah.
Because I am saying, no, I need to be able to be safe. And they're saying, no, you need to be able to feel safe.
Totally.
And so they take me out and they say, you know, they give the college spiel and I say my spiel. And then they're like, well, what if you get married and your husband, you have 6 kids and your husband dies? What are you going to do? And I literally was like, this is the worst conversation I've ever had as a 19-year-old. You know,
that's awful.
But what it did is it made me feel like what they actually believed is that as a woman, I couldn't provide for myself.
Interesting.
Like it created a narrative that like, I'm not capable.
Right.
You're telling me that I only am going to make it if I have a husband.
Right.
You're not telling me that I can make it. And you're not telling me that I can make it without college. You're telling me there's only one way I can make it.
Right.
And that does not feel great. And so when I'm writing my money beliefs, one of my beliefs is I need a husband to provide for me financially. I can't make my own money. And I never even knew that was in there.
I'm glad I came into your life. You're very lucky.
I'm very, very lucky.
Didn't you pretty much like quit working as soon as you guys got married?
Absolutely did for a few years. So,
sorry, was that a low blow?
Low blow. Low blow, Ruth. Go away.
So I end up, so then I write, like, the truth is I can make money. I'm powerful with money. I can be good with money as a woman. I can be the breadwinner in our family. Like, I had to write out multiple different truths to combat that lie. And it didn't mean that I fully believed them. It just was me starting to challenge my confirmation bias and me starting to expand that there could be more to what I was seeing than what I believed.
Totally.
So I'm just agreeing with that. Like, find out what you actually do believe so that you can challenge it.
Well, isn't it funny how, practically speaking, college isn't a bad thing.
No.
And it doesn't have to necessarily be a good thing for some people either. What college represents is education, the ability to learn and develop ourselves, which is something you never stop doing. You've aggressively educated yourself.
I have. And I would like to say, I'm doing just fine.
Doing just fine.
Doing just fine without college.
But there was the idea that, like, hey, are we? I think a lot of that conversation was, you need to be a proactive participant in learning and developing yourself. Otherwise, you'll just be destitute inside of your life. Which I get it. Like, there's practical conversations around money about, like, hey, do I actually have strengths that I am utilizing in order to bring income streams in, which is real. But really, when it got down to it, again, it was the core belief systems that are dictating everything. If I believe that money is always going to be elusive, like, I know people who are very well educated, very learned people that have spent years spinning their wheels in mud and never getting any actual traction on their life because their deep down belief is money is elusive. It's not a good friend. I can't get close to it. It's always going to disappear. I'm always going to make bad decisions that cause it to, like, fall through my fingers, right? And it's like, they're just like, I'm just cursed with bad luck. No, you have a bad belief system. There's no such thing as bad luck. You have a bad belief system inside of this.
And, for clarity, a bad belief system creates behavior patterns. It's not just like your beliefs magically change your circumstances. It's your beliefs shape your decisions.
Right. Because when you think about the idea of, like, oh, I believe that money's just going to suddenly disappear on me and there's not going to be enough, fear, anxiety sets in. Then all of a sudden opportunity comes. We reject it. We respond poorly to it. There's all types of reactions that we have that end up creating the fulfillment inside of it. It was people understand this concept. It's not new to a lot of people.
Like an example from my life would be, I had this belief that, like, in order for me to feel safe around money, I had to not worry about it. Right? Yeah. So I had to get to a point where money wouldn't ever be a worry again. Right?
Right.
So what number is that? Belief, but that belief then manifested itself in, well, then I will just avoid money.
Yeah. Right. Ignorance is bliss is what I was going to say.
I won't look at my bank account. Yeah. I won't set a budget. I'm trying to create the experience of not having to worry about money now by not paying attention to my money. Yeah. Because it comes from that belief system that if I can get to a place where I don't have to worry about it, I won't have to feel what I'm feeling right now.
It all really comes back to, again, we've been using a word called, like, safety, right? Yeah. And when you feel orphaned, abandoned, alone inside of this world, you don't believe that anything's on your side. You believe you have to do it all on your own. Then you're, like, mitigating all the disasters inside of your head of what could happen. And all of a sudden, there's just this enormous thing in front of you that you're not able to tackle, that you feel powerless to. But when we actually don't believe that we're orphans, we believe that there is a again, going back to, I talked about the loving God, a dad that's involved, a world that's on my side. Like, I don't believe I'm alone inside of life. And I even believe in a worst case disaster for Abby and I, we're going to be taken care of. It just practically, there's enough people out there that have loving, kind hearts who will actively participate. And then that's not even counting all the miraculous circumstances that can happen. But safety really comes back into tethering in, like, I'm not alone on this earth.
Totally.
And that's something that had to get so deeply settled inside of me of, I am not alone. And my well-being is in consideration, just across the board,
Totally.
so to say.
And I think I love that. And I think a real feature of, I talked about these feelings that we can't tolerate. Like a real feature of those feelings is that we were alone in them.
Yes.
Like that's one of the main things that causes trauma is I was alone in these intolerable feelings.
Yes.
And so what you're talking about is going on instead of trying to fix
the outside
with a job or savings or spending or whatever it is, I'm actually paying attention to that part of me that feels really alone in these really horrific feelings. And how can I create safety for myself in those feelings? And that safety quite often looks like inviting someone into it. And God can for sure be that someone.
And people.
And people.
And the more that I was vulnerable, connected to people, let them into that space, I'm like, it's going to be okay. I'm not alone. I'm not alone.
Because what's actually happening there is you're learning, I can navigate these feelings.
I can tolerate
these feelings.
Love involved.
Because if I have love involved, if I have connection involved, these feelings don't get to destroy me. And if they don't get to destroy me, then they no longer have to dictate my belief systems. They no longer have to dictate my world.
So I can handle them instead of running from them. Where most of my life, they were driving me to run away from them. Now, if I turn and face them and expose them and then start talking about them and then bring people into it, then it can help me learn to tolerate that feeling.
So it might still be uncomfortable, but I can tolerate it.
Which, by the way, like you were saying, and I'm just pointing this out to people, like budgeting and doing all those practical things, they're not bad in and of themselves. They're actually very
helpful.
They're also part of intimately connecting to your finances is like, okay, what is the budget? How do I get involved inside of this? Seeing that we're a powerful participant externally. But again, the external thing isn't going to solve the heart thing. It can create an alleviation for a time being, where it's like, okay, I'm fine now because it seems like everything's okay outside. But you barely poke the domino and it can tip over all the dominoes. Like just one circumstance can cause instability. And if you don't have the heart thing worked out, then all of a sudden you realize, oh, I was only safe based on perceived circumstances, not based on my soul was resolved, which it goes back to what Abby brought up in the beginning, which was Will Smith, where he's like, he's got all the money in the world and he's up late at night sitting there being like, I'm going to lose it all. I'm going to lose it all. What do I do to stop from losing it all?
Yeah. I mean, I never, honestly, one of the most trying things for me was when we started making money. I felt way more panicked than when we had no money.
Right.
Like when we had a savings account, that like freaked me the F out. I was like, I mean, it was horrible to me because I was like, now I have something I could lose. I've never had something I could lose before. I was always making just the right amount just to get by. And I believed that I would always have just enough.
Right.
But the idea of like now when it entered in, I thought, what if you lose everything when you have nothing? You haven't lost that much. But if you start building safety and then you lose it, that feels crazy. So that brought up a whole new fear for me that I had to work through and face and acknowledge and then process through and get to the other side. And I do want to talk a little bit about my journey with God and beliefs because it and practical. I think that all three to me have been how I've gotten transformation is transformation in my beliefs, in my feelings, transformation about my beliefs about God, and then also practical decisions and how to operate with finances. But Ruth actually did, this is just going to hook you for the next episode. There came a point where she actually realized how much this fear of finances was dictating her life and causing torment. And she found something to deal with it. And she went on the journey of emotionally dealing with it. And she's going to talk about practically what that looks like, what it looked like for her, and what some of her ahas were in our next episode. So we knew this would be a couple episode series because money is such a big topic. This is just starting to get you to hopefully pay attention, to start to check in. What is it that I believe about money? What created the map that I believe about finances? What do I feel like I need to do to be safe? What do I feel like I need to, what am I avoiding inside?
What's the feeling I'm trying to avoid?
Yeah.
What don't I want to feel?
Yeah. So if this is helpful for you, I'd love to have you share it with people.
Share it with people.
Share it.
We
get it out there.
We also have our Life Consulting Masterclass. It does a year-long program, and we deep dive into understanding your beliefs about a lot of things and how to transform your beliefs and how to retrain yourself to orient to safety. Because really, that's the key in every area of our life, with money, with careers, with families. It's how do you find a new way to be safe from the inside out?
If you can get to that safety within, you can get to peace, you can get to wisdom from that point. You can make great decisions. Yeah.
You can be creative.
Yeah.
Yep. So thanks so much for being here, Ruth. I've loved that. If you're interested in the school, you can go to justinandabi.com. Is that right?
Yep. And you can go ahead and click on, whoa,
Ooh.
you can get that there.
Oops.
You can click on our Life Consulting Masterclass under our courses, and you can fill out an application. Make it happen fast. Time is running out.
It is.
I'm going to go away. I'm done. I want food now.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay. Bye, friends.
Bye.
Bye.